today as we update the people of Anguilla on what has been going on within our various ministries. Father, we thank you for the journalist that also joins us to ask questions and seek clarity on behalf of the people of Anguilla. God, we continue to ask you for guidance as we lead this country, and we ask you that you continue to bless and heal our nation. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And so, once again, welcome to those of you who are here with us in person and those of you joining us via social media, radio, and otherwise. So, we want to extend our sincerest condolences to the family, friends, and loved ones of the following persons: Mr. Robin Ricketts of Lower South Hill, Mr. Franklin Richardson of West End, Mr. Roland Brooks of the Valley, Mr. Ira Gums of George Hill, and Ms. Crisilda Cassie Baptiste of Sandy Ground. And there may be other persons who have passed on that we may not be aware of, or persons who are currently ill and recovering. And we wish to extend our wishes for speedy recovery for those persons who are recovering, and our deepest condolences for the family, friends, and loved ones of persons who have passed away in recent times. This morning, I attended the launch of the Government of Anguilla's week-long public procurement training program, held in partnership with the Caribbean Development Bank, the CDB, as part of the Ministry of Finance's 2026 Public Financial Management Training Initiative. The program is designed to strengthen procurement governance, improve procurement planning, promote value for money, and build institutional capacity across the public service. And the opening session this morning brought together senior public servants, leaders of statutory bodies, and members of Executive Council. And throughout the remainder of the week, the training will focus on procurement practitioners, procurement planning, and specialized sessions for the ANGLEC board and procurement board. I also wish to provide an update on the continuation of the government's cost of living support. The government has agreed to extend 3 important relief measures for an additional 3 months. We are extending the electricity fuel surcharge support. Households and general customers will continue to pay a fuel surcharge of 42 cents per kilowatt hour, while hotels, villas, and guest houses will continue to pay EC 65 cents per kilowatt hour. The government of Anguilla will continue to absorb the difference, while the calculated surcharge remains significantly raised. ANGLEC has advised that the current surcharge is 97 cents per kilowatt hour, and without the government's intervention, that full amount would be passed on to consumers. The extension is forecasted to provide approximately EC $15 million in additional support for electricity bills covering June through August of 2026, that usage, which will appear on bills issued from July through September of 2026. We are also extending the temporary suspension of the import duty on fuel and the customs service fee on gasoline and diesel. This is in addition to the existing gasoline excise concessions, and together, the suspended charges provide for relief of approximately $1.97 per imperial gallon. The additional 3-month extension is estimated to provide approximately $1.1 million in further relief. And third, we are extending the temporary shift in the import tax valuation base from cost insurance freight to free on board. And this means that freight and insurance costs will continue to be excluded when calculating applicable ad valorem import taxes. For an import-dependent economy such as ours, taxing the increased freight and insurance costs associated with bringing goods to Anguilla adds further pressure to the final price paid by consumers. And the extension is estimated to provide approximately 3.06 million EC dollars in additional relief over the next 3 months. And so together, these measures represent approximately $19 million over the 3-month period in further support to help protect households, sustain businesses, and moderate the wider cost of living. At a time when continued global uncertainty, exists, the government is using the fiscal space available to stand with the people of Anguilla, and we are protecting families from the full force of these external shocks while ensuring that our interventions remain disciplined, affordable, and sustainable. I'm pleased to provide a further update in relation to the Sovereign Wealth Fund. The development of Anguilla's Sovereign Wealth Fund is one of the most important steps we are taking to convert today's strong revenues, particularly those generated by the AI domain, into lasting security and prosperity for the people of Anguilla. In June, an IMF technical team was on the ground working closely with the Ministry of Finance on the institutional design of the fund. That work examined the essential safeguards that must sit behind the legislation, including the fund's governance structure, deposit and withdrawal rules, investment framework, transparency requirements, reporting arrangements, and independent oversight. So we've now moved from the institutional design into the legislative drafting phase. The IMF has commenced working remotely with the government to translate the policy and institutional guidance into a strong legislative framework for Anguilla. Our aim is to finalize the legislative framework by the end of this quarter and then advance it through the House of Assembly after appropriate consultation. We are determined to get it right, not only for the present generation, but for generations of Anguillians who will follow us. The revenues available to Anguilla today present an extraordinary opportunity. Our responsibility is to ensure that this moment of opportunity becomes a permanent source of strength, resilience, and prosperity for our island. We are also looking at financial services development and promotion sector. The financial services sector has the potential to become a stronger and more sustainable pillar of Anguilla's economy. Tourism will remain critically important, and greater economic resilience requires us to broaden our economic base, create more high-quality professional opportunities for Anguillians, and develop additional sources of sustainable revenue. For financial services to grow, promotion cannot operate in isolation from policy, and it must be connected to the development of legislation, compliance with global standards, fiscal and economic policy, and meaningful engagement with both the regulator and the industry. And so we not just want to promote Anguilla's financial services, but we want to develop it into a stronger and more sustainable pillar of the Anguillan economy. And that requires much more than marketing. And promotion tells the world what Anguilla offers today. Development determines what Anguilla will be able to offer tomorrow. And so in developing the sector, we recognize that it requires specialized expertise involving assessing international trends, identifying new viable products and markets, modernizing legislation, understanding tax and regulatory developments, engaging with the industry, and ensuring that Anguilla remains competitive while meeting international standards. And so the Ministry of Finance is therefore the practical place to establish the function and get this important work properly underway. It allows us to connect promotion immediately with product development, policy formulation, legislative framework, and the wider technical resources already available within the government. And so the Government of Anguilla is looking at establishing a capable and functioning financial services development and promotion unit within the Ministry of Finance. Its initial structure will include a director supported by team officers and buttressed by the wider technical expertise within the ministry. The next phase will include structured engagement with the industry, preparation of a clear development and promotion strategy, and the identification of priority products, markets, and legislative reforms. And as an update in terms of our public debt, as at the end of June 2026, Anguilla's central government debt stands at EC $278.43 million. Thank you, and that's the extent of my update from the Ministry of Finance and Home Affairs, and I'll hand it over to the Honorable Kyle Hodge to provide his update.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon to the media. Good afternoon to the people of Anguilla. Just to follow on the Premier's update as it relates to the relief measure, my update is particularly on the CIF to FOB customs relief. One of the commitments we made to the people of Anguilla was that we would review this particular relief measure over the 3-month period to determine whether it was achieving the intended purpose. The Economic Planning Unit, led by Rena Mead, and the Consumer Affairs Unit, led by Giovanni Francisco, would have done a preliminary assessment of the temporary CIF to FOB customs valuation measure and would have briefed us in Executive Council last week. The methods used collected data and feedback from the prices from the various grocery stores over a 3-month period. Meetings were used and discussions were had amongst a cross-section of the business community, and also some merchant surveys would have gone out. I want to thank Mr. Giovanni Francisco, Ms. Melissa Mead, Ms. Rena Mead, Mrs. Jamisa Gums, Mr. Ashan Hodge, and Mr. Jaden Richardson. He's an intern. The team looked at 50 essential items across 26 grocery stores in total. There was also a well-attended stakeholders meeting on July the 1st, 2026, where a number of business people attended and gave testimonies and feedback on the FOB measure. And the FOB the measure is basically the removal of duties on the freight and insurance. The assessment concluded that the measure achieved its primary objective. It served as an economic shock absorber during one of the most significant global shipping and energy crises in recent years by reducing the customs value on which import duties and related taxes were calculated. This lowered the landing costs of all imports and helped cushion businesses, households, and individual importers from even greater increases in the cost of living and the cost of doing business. While most businesses indicated that customs savings were not reflected in immediate price reductions, they explained that the relief enabled them to offset increases that took place in freight, supplier price increases, financing costs, wages, and other operating expenditures. However, I personally met with 2 business owners who have computerized pricing systems and set profit margins, and they both would have proven to me that they were able to lower prices based on the FOB system that was implemented 3 months ago. Merchants also highlighted ongoing supply chain disruptions, longer shipping lead times, and anticipated international price increases, all of which continue to place pressure on businesses. There was strong support for maintaining the CIF to FOB measure without interruption, with many participants viewing it as more valuable than temporary utility subsidies because it provides longer-term certainty for import costs. Overall, the consultation reinforced the importance of policy continuity during the tourism off-season and current inflationary environment to support business stability and protect consumers. The purpose of this measure, as with other measures, was to cushion rising costs. Global oil prices, freight charges, insurance costs, and cost of goods all increased dramatically during this period. Without this intervention, businesses and consumers would likely have experienced much steeper price increases. When the world was facing rising fuel prices, higher shipping costs, and geopolitical uncertainty, and it still continues today, we did something about it. The internal assessment confirms that our intervention guarded Anguilla from those external pressures. While no policy can eliminate a global crisis, this one helped prevent a much steeper increase in the cost of living for our people. The government of Anguilla has approved a further 3-month extension of this relief measure through to October 2026. I'll give a brief update on behalf of the Parliamentary Secretary, the Honorable Cadell Richardson. Around this time last year, the government of Anguilla received EC $2.4 million in a grant from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to strengthen food security across our island. We are extremely grateful to the ECCB for that investment in Anguilla's agriculture future. I am also pleased to announce, by news that the Premier would have shared with us, that the ECCB has once again approved a further $2.4 million EC grant to continue advancing our food security initiatives. The first grant has enabled the government to make significant progress in strengthening agriculture, increasing domestic food production, and improving the resilience of the sector. Among the major achievements were/are the successful importation of 18 sheep and goats under our livestock genetic improvement program, the introduction of artificial insemination, the procurement of 10 additional shade houses, bringing the program to a total of 30 shade houses, investment in greenhouse materials to support the expansion of hydroponic systems and protected agriculture, the development of a comprehensive poultry development program that is in the works right now, the commencement of our first fruit orchard development program, with fruit trees already planted and plans to extend and expand production to include citrus, guava, soursop, mango, starfruit, and avocado, strengthening local fruit production and improving food security. The introduction of farm data management systems, including tablets and agricultural software. The purchase of a walk-behind tractor to improve land preparation within shade houses and increase farming efficiency. The acquisition of an industrial agricultural shredder to improve agricultural waste management. The implementation of wildlife population control measures to reduce crop losses, protect agricultural production, and improve yields for our farmers. These investments demonstrate how the first ECCB grant has been strategically allocated to strengthen agriculture, improve food production, modernize farm practices, and build greater resilience within the sector. Now that we have been advised that a second tranche of $2.4 million is forthcoming, the Parliamentary Secretary and I would have met a few days ago with the team from Agriculture, Fisheries, and the Chief Natural Resource Officer to begin reviewing our priorities and identify the best use of the next phase of funding. Over the coming weeks, we will also engage directly with our farmers and fishers to hear their priorities, understand the challenges they continue to face, and invite them to help shape the next phase of this investment. We want these resources to be directed where they will have the greatest impact and deliver lasting benefits to the sector. Our goal remains clear: to continue strengthening Anguilla's food security, reduce our dependence on imported food, support our farmers and fishers, and build a more resilient and sustainable agricultural sector for generations to come. My last update. This evening, in my capacity as Minister of Economic Development, I have invited stakeholders to attend a consultation on the ongoing development of the Valley Strip, led by the Social Security Investment Committee. The consultation will provide updates on the project, outline the planned phases of development, and offer an opportunity for residents, business owners, and other stakeholders to share feedback, raise concerns, and make recommendations. The meeting will be held this afternoon at 6 p.m. right here in the Ministry of Finance conference room. That's the end of my updates. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I will be updating in my capacity in terms of MSD, the Ministry of Education and Social Development, and those projects. The 2026 Joint Summer Camp has officially begun. The opening ceremony took place at the Blowing Point Development Community Center. This joint summer camp brings together all of our community centers across the island. This year, only 4 centers are engaged in the joint summer camp, because currently the West End Community Development Center is not active, while we are sorting some other stuff in terms of operations. So all 4 centers will collaborate this week to execute the camp under the theme Summer Adventurers. The current numbers of student or campers is a total of 42. This summer camp includes pickup and drop off. Campers are picked up at their respective community centers and drop off at the same location when the day is over. Each day has a different activity, approach, and destination. We launched the first forum towards gaming and esports on island. This was conducted by local talents in the industry and our Anguillian pro in esport, Miss India Brown, that is based in the UK. The objective of this is to start structuring the industry on island, recognizing the gaps that needs development, change this from an entertainment industry into an actual opportunity pathways for youth and gamers, along with relevant stakeholders, especially the Ministry of MICU. I want to place on record special thanks to the team of the Department of Youth and Culture, especially Ms. Janelle Anthony, Senior Program Officer Youth, and the rest of the team for the excellent work done to ensuring this was successful. In terms of sports within the same ministry, the mini pitch fields, these are 2 turf football fields on a smaller scale compared to the turf field that's next to the official football field. These fields will be built, one at Vivian Vanderpool Primary School, Island Harbor, as a priority, and Valley Primary School. At this stage, the procurement documents were prepared last week for the sub-base, which is what the government has to provide. The procurement office responded back with recommendation, and the ministry should be responding back with the adjustments this week. FIFA through AFA will provide all installation materials, future maintenance. We would like to start at least with the heavy equipment work of the sub-base before school open, and hoping to have it finalized, especially at Island Harbor, before the football season. The Sports Hub, this project is progressing. This project is going to be developed at the Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School, Campus Q. It comprises of 4 basketball courts, full-size football field, batting cages for cricket, baseball, and golf, 200-meter track, and a gym. The hub is, the project is currently at the Ministry of MICU, and we're waiting for the final costing of the whole project to be able to determine the facilities that should be first on the list to build. And that will be all of my updates for the day.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to give an update on behalf of the Ministry of Infrastructure, Communications, Utilities, Housing, IT, and E-Government Services. As it relates to the airport development program continues to progress well. The first phase is expected to include apron works, runway widening, and the relocation of the runway lights. The formal construction contract is expected to be completed within the remainder of the week. As it relates to roads, invitations to bids have been issued for the Raphael T. Lake Drive as well as the Albert Lake Drive road projects, with submissions due by mid-August 2026. I would encourage all eligible local applicants who are interested to register their interest for this project. Design works are currently underway for the Albert Lake Drive to Campus Q Road and expected to move to procurement around September of this year. Surveys and designs are also underway for the roads identified as priority for 2027 so that they can be costed, included in this upcoming budget process, and put out to procurement by the end of this year. Work continues on the road from South Hill to Jeremiah, where one of 2 major pourings has already taken place at the South Hill Junction, marking the approach towards the completion of that road project. A comprehensive road program is currently being finalized for 2026 to 2028. This comprehensive program will encompass road reconstruction, road rehabilitation, as well as roads identified for chip and seal pavement. As it relates to vehicles, I can confirm that 4 new SUVs, Ford Interceptors, have been arrived, are fully outfitted, and are on island for addition to the Royal Anguilla Police Force's fleet. During the course of this week, we expect the complement to be increased with the addition of some Broncos, which are currently in St. Martin and due to be shipped to Anguilla by the end of this week. These investments are arriving at an important time as we approach the upcoming summer festival season. While we're also in the heat of the summer season, which I encourage all of us to enjoy responsibly, I, and on behalf of the Minister of Education, am happy to report that 6 new school buses have been purchased. The first set of 3 of these school buses are expected to be shipped from Florida to Anguilla by the end of July, with the second set of 3 expected to be shipped during the first week of August, with the hopes of all of these buses being encompassed into the fleet for the upcoming school term. The government continues to work towards having the buses available to support our needs. As it relates to CCTV, the National CCTV project remains on track, with the overall implementation schedule adjusted by approximately 1 month following engineering enhancements to the camera pole infrastructure. So the end date was supposed to be in October. Shifting 1 month, we're expecting the end date of this project to be completed by November. The revised pole design incorporates improved outreach arms and factory-installed mounting provisions, ensuring that all fabrication is completed prior to the galvanization. This approach significantly improves durability, reduces the risk of corrosion, and minimizes future maintenance costs, providing a more resilient long-term national asset. The National CCTV program continues with approximately 60% of the required materials now on island. As it relates to government office accommodation, the government office accommodation report is expected during the week of 20th July, this week, following the submission of additional information which was requested by the consultants. The government is also reviewing immediate accommodation requirements for several departments that have been put in, as well as ministries, while also considering the longer-term plan for the consolidation of the public services. The ministry is currently engaged with Anglic conducting a streetlight audit. The aim is to complete this comprehensive audit and report on a number of the streetlights throughout the island and to identify the areas where lighting is most needed. We are aware that there's a number of applications for streetlights that are currently in a significant backlog at that, and we're asking the general public to remain patient as we go through this process. The audit is expected to be completed by the end of August. As it relates to .ai revenue, the Premier would have spoken to the importance of .ai revenues, as well as the government and this administration ensuring that this remains a strong and economically viable option for generations to come. Tomorrow, my ministry, along with the House of Assembly, in collaboration with the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association UK, will meet not only to debrief on the last AI conference which we just held, but also to initiate talks for continued partnership towards future international events, further anchoring Anguilla, as well as solidifying our position as the home of AI, as well as our role in shaping how the conversation around AI within our region and throughout the world are held. I'm happy to report that for the month of June, .ai revenues brought in 29.8 million EC dollars or 11 million US dollars, bringing our year-to-date value for revenues from .ai to $196.8 million. That concludes my update on behalf of the Ministry of Infrastructure.
Thank you very much. And now we open the floor for questions.
Good afternoon. Mr. Vanderpool, since you were the last presenter, I will just start with you. In terms of the CCTV, you mentioned the closing date in terms of the rollout phase, I assume. Could you tell us when it will actually start? We are in the carnival season. We actually had a murder on July 10th. Tell us about the rollout for this particular, for the CCTV.
Thank you very much. And they say the last shall be first. So as it relates to the National CCTV program, that's the project that we have being held by Digicel with the smart cameras. in anticipation of the fact that we are approaching our summer festival, I just want for the benefit of the public to understand the national CCTV program, which we expect to be completed by November, does not negate the fact that we currently do have cameras in operation right now as a plan B in anticipation of the summer festival. So the smart cameras in the whole national CCTV program will continue with cameras being enabled before Carnival, but there are also cameras throughout the island that are currently in operation in anticipation of the summer festival. So we do have coverage throughout the island. I won't speak to specific locations, but we do have coverage throughout the island already in anticipation of Carnival, which the CCTV program will build upon.
So could you tell us the total we currently have on stream, and then the additional of how many?
So the national CCTV program, we're currently looking at 30 locations throughout the island. And when I say 30 locations, there may be multiple cameras per location. Each location is strategically focused. But the way that we're looking at outfitting the Joint Emergency Control Room, which will, if you think about it, will be the brains of the center, will also allow other cameras to be able to be plugged in, including from the private sector who may have their personal CCTVs on homes, businesses, etc. So the 30 is government invested strategic locations, but we're setting up a control room that we can plug in and expand significantly beyond that.
I know you don't want to list the location, which is fine, but I just find it interesting that at one particular location, it does say publicly, this is a CCTV zone. So I'm just curious as to, you have a public notice versus being confidential, or you don't want to reveal too much. So I don't understand.
So if I were to balance that, I would say that if you were to drive through and just pay attention to some of the poles you're passing, you may see cameras. So some of it is quite obvious. It may not necessarily be covert, but at the same time, we're not necessarily going to give up the competitive advantage the police may have by saying that this is every location for CCTV until we expand, because there may be a few blind spots that we do need to further expand upon.
I know you didn't speak about Bermuda here, but I saw an article earlier this morning about the Toronto flights coming on stream next year.
So we're very much looking forward to that. For the upcoming tourism season, we'll be continuing flights from Baltimore, Newark, and Boston, but we'll also be increasing flights from those destinations. And one of the ways that we're increasing them is by adding an additional flight that flies through first those three destinations, stops in Provo, in Turks and Caicos, and then onward to Anguilla. The reason that we're looking at strategically including those flights is because, as you mentioned, we're looking at the upcoming season of introducing a direct flight from Toronto. When we say direct, if you get on the flight in Toronto to Anguilla, you won't have to get off the plane, but you will need to take one short stop in TCI. You will not be required to get off the plane. But by directing certain flights there, we're able to maximize the visitor options and the potential for persons to come in as well as out of Anguilla. In addition to the flight that will be going from Toronto to TCI to Anguilla, we're also looking at a flight that goes to Tampa, from Tampa to TCI Anguilla, and further, that Tampa flight also services Belize. So while we're trying to add new routes as well as maximize visitor potential coming into Anguilla, these are also routes that, whether it's for our students, our locals, our tourists just looking to leave Anguilla and go to further places, that you can now leave Anguilla and go through these various routes. The strategic nature of TCI further builds upon our task of wanting to be the hub that connects all of the overseas territories.
All right, thank you. My question will be directed to the Premier. So you spoke extensively on the financial services sector. Are we trying to revive the sector? To me, our name was probably badly stained during the collapse of our two indigenous banks. So maybe you could expound a bit more on the plans that you spoke about?
Sure. I wouldn't say that we're trying to revive our financial services sector. I would say that we are trying to ensure that it remains viable and to continue to grow it. So the banking sector is a little different from the financial services sector that I'm speaking about. So the financial services sector that I'm speaking about is governed by the Financial Services Commission. And so, for instance, you may have members of the Anguilla Financial Services Association, etc. Currently, we have a financial services marketing person that is currently housed in the tourism department, the Anguilla Tourist Board. And it is our view that that position being housed in the ATB is not sufficient for the marketing of financial services in Angola. So when you think about it, for instance, the company's registry, incorporation of companies, the creation of foundations, etc. All of those things are part of the financial services sector, and that's the area that we want to continue to develop. Other overseas territories such as BVI, Cayman Islands, etc., have a thriving financial services sector, and we have still the online platform, Acorn, which is still, it was one of the first online registration networks that could have created companies within minutes. So we still have that framework. We have done a lot of advancements in terms of the legislation over the years in the financial services sector, and we're trying to develop that industry so once again it becomes an important limb for revenue in our country.
Speaking about the financial services sector, we know that the UK government is coming down hard on the OTs in terms of having public registers. Our Cayman Islands, as well as Anguilla, we've passed for legitimate interest.
Yes.
But again, they don't seem too keen about that. They want us to have fully open registers.
Yes.
We now have a new prime minister. I don't know, what are your thoughts? Where do you think this might lead?
So we actually passed the legislation for legitimate interest register, and which is similar to what a number of the other overseas territories have done as well, and that was launched in May of this year. So we're actually in compliance with those discussions, etc., that the UK has wanted for the OTs. In terms of the new prime minister, we wish him welcome. We anticipate that there may be some changes in the landscape in terms of ministerial appointments in the UK, etc. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. But in the interim, last week actually we have been engaged, the OTs have been engaged in a virtual meeting with the existing Minister of the Overseas Territories, Minister Doughty, and we were able to provide updates in terms of the legitimate interest registers, etc.
Do you foresee perhaps a delay in the Joint Ministerial Council meeting, the annual GMC?
Not as far as we're aware. In fact, the meeting was to prepare for the GMC.
Okay. In terms of the preparations, what are the discussions like among the OTs? I saw a story from the Cayman Islands where a number of local residents were speaking out against the revocation of the Esther farms. I know some persons here have been experiencing the same. Are these part of the discussions going forward?
Yeah, there are some conversations, some topics that apply across all of the OTs. We struggle with the same issues from time to time. A number of us are undergoing constitutional amendments as of right now. In fact, BVI, I believe, last week would have had their first week of engagement with the UK in terms of their constitutional negotiations. As you may be aware, our Constitutional Committee has been meeting. They, in fact, have a meeting planned for 5 p.m. this evening, and we're hoping that over the next couple of months, they will be able to provide a first draft of our new constitution that we will take to the public. So there's a lot of work and a lot of issues that apply across the board. So when you talk about crime and violence, for instance, drugs, gangs, etc., these are things that are consistent among the OTs. The beneficial ownership register as well, financial services, etc. Those are things that we all have in common. So we engage in discussions on those levels, things that apply to all of us. We'll have joint discussions, we'll have open conversations in relation to them. And then because each overseas territory has unique issues that apply to them and may not be necessarily to others, we also have those discussions separate and apart from the group meetings.
Could you tell us the specific outcomes coming out of the CARICOM meeting, specifically relating to Anguilla? Because we know we don't subscribe to everything, but I saw that one of the topics were intra-regional ferry service. Does this apply to us, or would this apply to us?
So Anguilla is an associate, as all of the other overseas territories are associate members of CARICOM. And so because of that, there are certain areas that we benefit from and there are certain areas that we don't. So for instance, as an example, the free flow of persons, Anguilla and the other OTs will not be able to subscribe to that. The regional ferry, the idea behind that, I believe the first one has been launched in Trinidad. So the first ferry is coming out of Trinidad and will service that southern region. And it's anticipated that there will be two more that will service the middle region and another one that will service the upper region, the northern region of the Caribbean. And so those are to come online over time. The purpose of the ferry service is to be able to improve trade among the region. And so we're very much looking forward to that taking place. Now, in terms of your specific question, does Anguilla as an overseas territory specifically benefit from each and every one of these? Perhaps not in the same way. And so as a full member of CARICOM, you automatically benefit from these areas. In terms of being an associate member, we'd have to find ways in which we can benefit because we're not full members. And so that's something still to be worked on. In relation to the ferry service in particular, because that is for the southern region, Anguilla is not necessarily part of that, but certainly as it relates to the middle region, or even the northern region, once that ferry service comes on stream, we definitely would want to participate, and we'd have to have conversations in terms of what that would look like.
Yeah. I was thinking that it may apply to us or help us dealing with food security in terms
Definitely.
of trading with our regional partners.
So those are discussions that we are a part of and that we benefit from, not just at the CARICOM level, but also at the Monetary Council level and the OECS level. And so there is a consistent message that is being delivered in all of these organizations, and that is that we need to increase trade amongst ourselves. And the question is, and the biggest question, is shipping, and how do we do so? And that's what we're trying to work through now.
And one of the broader issues, well, one of the most topical issues is reparations on the CARICOM level, but anything specifically on the BOTs?
Not in relation to BOTs, I can say that coming out of the CARICOM meeting, the OTs would have had separate meetings, and we're due to have a meeting in September in Bermuda to further discuss those matters that are of interest to us and that apply to us in particular.
Premier, you spoke about the extension of the cost of living, and we know that the opposition brought a motion to the House last week. And further to that, Mr. Hughes was on last week, Wednesday, and he spoke about the opposition bringing more motions to the House, more specifically about the removal of the universal social levy and the removal of property tax for businesses. Any comments on that?
No, I don't listen to the opposition program, so I can't tell you. What I can tell you is that that questions, we encourage and we support questions coming to the House. A lot of work that we do, sometimes we may not come to the public at the particular time until it reaches a stage. So for instance, the motion that came to the House was in relation to a revision to the Legislators' Pensions Act. And that work has been ongoing by this administration for months now. And because we went through the consultation phase among ourselves, we engaged Ministry of Finance, we engaged in the House of Assembly, etc. We wanted for it to reach to a certain place before we can come to the public and say, yes, we actually have the workings of a draft that is going to be coming forward, etc. And so the opposition will have brought something to the House that we're already working on, and we expect that they will continue to do so. Ideas and suggestions, things that we already have in place, plans that we are working on, that they may be able to bring forward and ask that we continue to deliver on these. And these are, it's our mandate, it's what we intend to do. And so we encourage them continue to bring motions to the House.
But those two particular motions they're looking to bring,
I don't know. I haven't
relates to the
heard.
taxes. Would that
Yeah.
be possible though?
I haven't heard what, like I said, I don't listen to the opposition program. We are more motivated by our manifesto, our agenda, what we've told the people of Anguilla that we're going to deliver to them, and that is our mandate. And if the opposition decides that they want to bring motions, then at that time, whenever they bring it, We'll take it on board and see whether or not it's something we're working on at this point in time, or whether it's something we can take into consideration.
Premier, if I may just add, I do find the timing of these motions somewhat interesting, seeing that the members of the opposition would have had 5 years while in office if they truly felt strong about providing these tax reliefs and these measures for the people of Anguilla. They had 5 years to enact, well, 4.5, seeing that they cut their own term short. But we will take on whatever motions that they bring forth, and if it has merit to the people of Anguilla, we will enact them.
Thank you for that, Minister. I wasn't going to mention it, although it was forefront of my mind, but that certainly is the case that, if it is that there was such an interest in changing these pieces of legislation, they did have the opportunity while they were in government to deliver on that.
I know time is limited. Just two quick questions for Minister Hodge. Any update as it relates to the infection that is currently affecting the U.S., that it's affecting Americans? I know there was one case reported in the Cayman Islands. It has to do with the leafy vegetables. People seem to be getting sick. So what is the discussion, or have you met with the environmental health unit on this particular
No,
issue?
I haven't gotten an update on that particular situation.
Yeah, intestinal infection.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any update on that.
Yeah, I believe that they tracked the source to an imported lettuce variety. And I believe that they are taking steps in the US to be able to pull those from the shelves, etc. But in terms of locally in Anguilla, I'm not sure whether or not we import that particular brand.
I have not heard anything about it locally.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end of this press conference for today. We want to thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day and a very productive week.